Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to the Nürburgring here in Germany's Eifel Mountains. And we are setting sail into the second half of the TCR Europe Series. Race 1 here from the Nürburgring coming up for you this afternoon, with race 2 tomorrow lunchtime. Just 6 more races before the end of our championship season, and we are intensely flying through it. By the end of October, we will have finished our year. It's a lovely day here at the Nürburgring, would you believe? Track temperature nearly 40 degrees and a lovely air temperature of 21. It's not often we get a chance to say how beautiful and lovely it is at the Nürburgring, but when the sun doth shine, it is so stunning with the forests around us. Here is our entry list, and it's pretty much as it was the last couple of races. And our grid sees Isidro Callejas on the pole position alongside Franco Girolami with an all-Honda front row. Nils Langeveld in 3rd position with Teddy Claret in the Peugeot 4th, and then Ashkenar and Coronel on row 3. Klim Gavlarov and Jakim Galash on row 4, and Victor Davidovsky, Jack Young, row 5. Then we look to the second page, and the story here, if you've been following on our social channels, is that Jimmy Claret starts at the tail of the field because he had an engine change after qualifying. That's the reason why he was not performing at his very best, certainly not performing at the pace of his brother that he usually is able to match. And so not a bad job from Team Claret Sport to get one engine out and another engine in the couple of hours that we've had since qualifying finished at around 11 o'clock local time. 17-year-old Isidro Callejas for the first time on pole position in TCR Europe. It's his 9th race in TCR Europe, and he lines up alongside a similarly inexperienced Franco Girolami, younger brother to Nestor. He works Honda driver, and Franco Girolami, with lots of help from his brother across the year, has a clear track ahead of him. Nils Langeveld will be very, very happy with 3rd position on the grid. And alongside him, the Peugeot, the little Peugeot with a smaller engine, Teddy Claret, 4th spot. That's always quite nippy off the line, that Peugeot. And the guys ahead of him will be concerned about the performance of that car and also of the Cupra. Michael Ashkenar leads our championship by a healthy margin coming into this race, despite missing the weekend at Zandvoort. The Spaniard very much in control of the championship, thanks to Cupra and Volcano Motorsport, and he lines up in 5th position, crucially the inside line into turn 1, but not necessarily the racing line. So how dirty is that part of the track? Tom Coronel lines up on the racing line on the outside of row 3, and he has a pair of brand new slicks on the front to get him off the line quickly. Perhaps didn't show his full potential in qualifying, perhaps didn't quite get the maximum speed. It does mean rolling forward, he won't necessarily have the weight, and that's another little thing that you have to think about when qualifying. It's not just about the position you're qualifying for, but it's how much weight you'll then carry in the following races. Klim Gavlarov, 15th in the championship, continuing to impress. Certainly him and his Russian team making a step up over the last couple of rounds, and he starts just alongside Tom, but on the inside of row 4. So Isidro Callejas and Franco Girolami with the clear track ahead of them, both in Hondas, and Nils Langeveld in 3rd position, flying the flag for Hyundai in a way that no other Elantra driver could do. You can see kind of at the tail of the shot the similar colours of Mehdi Banani and Sami Tauflewicz, and then Felice Jelmini, all in the second half of the grid, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. And it's not places where Mehdi Banani, who took a victory in Slovakia, would expect to be. Felice Jelmini, we saw on the podium twice in Ricard and in Spa-Francorchamps. Sami Taufluik we've seen on the podium once in Paul Ricard as well. Nils Langeveld we have only seen on the podium in Holland in Zandvoort in race 2. So cars heading around on their warm-up lap. Now, unlike this morning, we've had quite a lot of running, so you can see there's quite a bit of grip laid down, quite a lot of rubber laid down on certain parts of the circuit. And it's very interesting to see how there's different sections of tarmac now around this circuit. The older, grayer, dirtier kind of colour and that very rich dark, which sometimes looks as though it might offer you more grip, but actually can sometimes be a bit oily and a bit slippery. Down to the hairpin at the bottom of the lap. Good overtaking opportunity here. That one of perhaps 3 big braking zones that you've got around the lap here in TCR. There's a few places where you're kind of braking into the apex to get the car turned. That is a good place for a dive up the inside for sure. And the banking of the turn also really, really helps the cars accelerate through. And actually a lot of the corners on the second half of the lap have got a bit of positive camber that keeps the cars stuck to the road, allows them to carry more speed than perhaps they would do. Dusty, where we've just had qualifying for GT3s, and they do like to dip their wheels in gravel traps to try and straighten the corners as much as possible. And you can see quite a bit of dust there that the front-wheel drive touring cars will not like so much. I've also noticed as we come around to the back of the lap, the GT3 cars that are racing here are using the faster chicane, whereas we are using the much slower Formula 1 style chicane, where you get right down into first, second gear and chuck it over the curbs, but really have to slow down the car, whereas the GT cars are almost 4th, 5th gear through there in a different part of the circuit. And there's a lot of gravel that's also been dragged up from them on that part of the circuit. So this is where the cars are coming to now, and they'll just be exploring that bit of tarmac. Okay on the entry, but it's on the exit where the concerns will be. There's our new boy, Pole, Lukas Stolicic, and he qualified the tail end of our field in not the brand new Audi that is being released this year, but that's the Audi that we've got on the grid here at least. We do have a brand new Audi in the paddock, and so he's experiencing from the Central European, or the Central Zone TCR Championship, he's experiencing TCR Europe for the first time and finding out the step and the step up in exactly the way that TCR has been designed to do. The same car you can race in your regional race, your national races, and then you can step it up to the European Championship or even into the World Championship. Askinen leads the championship ahead of Franco Girolami, with Mehdi Benani in 3rd and Nils Langeveld in 4th. Tom Caronel 5th, and Nicolas Bart rounds out the top 6. Last car, Jimmy Claret pulls into his grid box. New engine on that car that has not been run in anger yet, but it will do now. The green flag flies at the back of the grid, and we're about to go racing here at the Nürburgring for the first time. A little bit of wheel spin from Isidro Callejas. That's why the car just went to the left-hand side. Franco Girolami comes across Nils Langeveld and comes across Isidro Callejas, who's not got the momentum, and actually Callejas is blocking Mikael Ashkinen's progress. Around the outside goes Teddy Claret. Ashkinen holds the very, very inside line, but gets good drive off the corner. There's a bit of contact in the middle of the pack. Then that's Viktor Davidovski, who's not got momentum going up the hill. A little bit more contact further round the lap, and look, Ashkinen's come all the way around the outside and up it momentarily up into 2nd position. Callejas now holds on. Can he shut the door? No, he can't. He opens the door. He opens the door to Nils Langeveld to come through. Langeveld's had a really good traction out of that corner and gets past Isidro Callejas. Can he keep the momentum going to get past Ashkinen into the next corner? Not quite, because Callejas is there. All of this squabbling allowing Franco Girolami to get away. And in fact, squabbling allowing Ashkinen to get away too. Ashkinen's got a clear track ahead of him. It's Girolami, Ashkenar, and then Nils Langeveld in third position, still side by side for fourth. Teddy Claret gets down the inside of Isidro Calles. So Calles really hasn't made a good start, but we know how fast he can be when he gets his head down. Just needs to not overdrive these early laps where the cars have not got the traction. Look how much they're sliding around through what should be a very easy, flat out, right, left corner. Nicolas Bart right in the thick of things behind Joachim Galash. Got Sami Tauflik just behind him. And how much progress have the Sebastian Loeb Elantras made on this first lap? Doesn't look like they've made very much. Mehdi Benani 14th, Jelmini ahead of him, and Tauflik 11th. So Benani didn't make a good start either. Jack Young dropped down to 15th. That's a loss of 5 spots as well. Through the chicane, they have tidied that chicane area, so no gravel for the front-wheel drive cars to contend with. Tom Coronel's 6th position, so he hasn't lost any positions. But I tell you what, good start from Kim Gavarov, up into 7th. The TCR Motorsport Games champion from 2019 for Russia. Really finding his feet with that Audi, and he's in a clutch of Audis with Dusan Volkovic behind. Further back, Matto Homler trying to get in the mix of things, trying to go down the inside of Nicolas Bart, and it's good. It actually does seem to work, that inside. Hold it tight through there. Don't let the car run out too wide, and then you've got momentum around the outside to make the move stick. We saw Ash going to do that on lap 1, and it looked as though Homler was going to do the same thing on lap 2. Finally, we saw Homler on the podium last time out in race 2 in Spa. A long time coming for a man who's got so much experience. And here he is with Benani trying to go around the outside of Nicolas Bart. It'll be the inside for the next corner. If Bart doesn't squeeze him, there's no way to. Side by side still. Jelmini watching on. And that's for a 12th position. Scoring points down to 15th spot. Still side by side into the hairpin. Bart is on the high line here, and this might not work out for him. He might get bullied off the circuit. They're all being very polite with each other, actually. Not very touring car racing at all. Bart gets back up a place. Benani slots in ahead of his teammate, and there is no rubbing at all, but the gravel gets thrown up through that chicane. So easy to do, especially on a front-wheel drive. Get a little bit greedy with the throttle. The front wheels start to slip, and then you're in the gravel trap on for the right-hand turn. All very well behaved. All 21 cars have made it around the first and nearly the second lap. At the front, Girolami has been caught by Ashkenar. Langeveld in third. Now, Girolami knows and has already said this is about the championship. It's important about the championship. He's focusing on Ashkenar for the championship. He's not really concerned about other people around him, but he needs to take big points out of the Spaniard to keep his championship alive. And you have to say, for the Argentine, doing a great job sitting there in second in the championship in front of the likes of Mehdi Benani, Nils Langeveld, Tom Coronel, Nicolas Bart, all with world experience. Further back, Jack Young having to do defensive work. That's very, very deep from Felice Jelmini, and it doesn't work out for him. He's going to run wide as well as the Brutal Fish Honda and the Claret Sport Peugeot do a little bit of wheel banging. Optimistic from Jelmini there. Way later on the brakes. Didn't get the car slowed down and didn't make the pass stick. So Bart's dropped 2 positions somewhere around the lap. He went behind Tauflik and Homler down to 12th spot. Here are the front 3 together. 4th position, Teddy Claret. 5th position, Calles. 6th, Coronel. This could get very, very juicy in a few laps' time. Now, 2 things to consider here. These 2 are fighting for the championship, yes. 1st and 2nd in the championship. Nils Langeveld, 4th in the championship, could do with a good haul of points. However, Mikael Ashkenar does not need to worry. He's got a big buffer of points. He's already got 2 0-drop scores, whereas the ones around him need to drop some points. So his advantage is way larger than the 27 points that shows on the scoreboard right now. Let's so he doesn't need to be forceful, he doesn't need to attack, he doesn't want to compromise a no score, because he'll have to carry that no score through for the rest of the season. That will change the way that Michael Askner drives the rest remaining 8 laps of this race. Jakub Galash, all under pressure from Sami Taufluch. He seems to have a little bit of a run. Is there a little bit of an overlap? Old Hyundai versus new Hyundai. Elantra down the inside, makes it stick. Great move from Sami. Got to get his name right by the end of the season. Taufik, not Tauflik. Got told off by him at Spa last time. Girolami holding on from Michael Askner, but I like Askner's line through these first couple of corners. Wouldn't work in a rear-wheel drive car, wouldn't work in a high-powered machine, but it seems to allow you to get the wheels straight on these front-wheel drive cars, and that helps the traction. How different the racing lines are through the stadium section versus what we might see in Formula One or what we're seeing in the GTs that are going around this weekend. Very, very different way of driving. Girolami sits in the middle of the road, offers no opportunity for the moment for Askner to dive down the inside. And as I say, I don't think he'll want to. Tauflik very, very wide there, almost giving Hommler the opportunity. Hommler's got past his teammate, hasn't he? So Jakub Galash starting to fade. In the first of the Yannick Motorsport cars, and now it's Hommler in the white bonneted machine, white and yellow bonneted machine, sorry, who is the best of the I-30s. Hommler looks really strong here, actually. Crawling all over the tail of Sami Tauflik. Very different car. Look at how long the Elantra looks in comparison to the previous Hyundai. I say previous one because they've actually got 3 different types of TCR car, 2 of which we see in Europe, but there is also the Speedster that we would know in Europe, but it's known as the Velostar in America, built by Brian Herter Autosport and run in TCR over there. Over the line. Look at the body language of the PSS Honda. Girolami is very conscious that Askner is behind him. He's moving around, almost kind of faux defending. And that will be digested well by Askner, because he'll know that it's starting to put him off. Many Benani looks to the inside of Nico Bart. 12th position. Oh, Bart has run wide and easily opened the door, not only to Mehdi Benani, but also Felice Yelmini. So Bart drops down to 14th there. If you look on the front left wing of Nicolas Bart, it says, oh no, it's front right wing. It says happy birthday to his sister Val. 18 today. Happy birthday to you, Val, and I hope you're enjoying this whilst you're on the beach in Greece. Bart down to 14th, Benani up to 12th, Felice Yelmini up to 13th. Not the starring performances that they would hope to have. They are heavier than Nils Langeveld for sure, carrying more success ballast because of their performances last time out. It does seem to have a huge effect on these cars, especially with these tyres. Last couple of years, we've changed manufacture of tyres, providing a new challenge for all of our drivers. With every tyre, they have different characteristics on how they behave, how they perhaps overheat or heat. And certainly the Hankooks have been well received in the paddock, but they are certainly a different way of driving them to get the best out of them than the previous tyres that we had over the last few years. And of course, every time you jump into a new championship as well, for the likes of Askner, he's got himself good years in the World Touring Car Cup this year. Good years on his World Touring Car Cup car, which is the same car that he's racing here. But then, of course, he's also in the rear-wheel drive electric touring car ETCR Championship. Rear-wheel drive, 700 brake horsepower equivalent. And the poor Goodyear tyres on that need to be nursed a lot, otherwise they just, well, fall apart basically. How's the pace? 2:08.844 from Franco Girolami. Matched by Michael Ashkina, but not matched by anybody else in the field. So they are still running a good pace at the front of the field. Langeveld did a 2:09.4. Claire a 2:09.6, and Calles a 2:10.1. So Calles' race pace here. Remember, we qualified at 15 degrees air temperature. We're now at 22 degrees air temperature. The track temperature, wherever it's measured by our timing guys, has doubled. And so a car that might work this morning in qualifying may not work now. We've seen Franco Girolami win a race before, race 2 in Holland, around the Zandvoort circuit, which is hosting Formula 1 this weekend. That was his first ever victory in TCR Europe and propelled him into second in the championship ahead of Mehdi Benani. And again, he can extend that advantage today, can't he? But Ashkina is keeping him very, very honest. Last time across the line, just 0.32 of a second. Puffing up a little bit of dust. Can't even see Ashkina. Is he close enough to make a dive down the inside? Franco Girolami thinks so. So goes a little bit of a faint dive. Ashkina's only going to do it here, and I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he needs to do it for the championship. Maybe he'll want to do it to add to his tally of 3 race victories already this season. Further back, Joachim Gallas, 11th position, fends off Mehdi Benani. All the positions down to 15th do score points. Jimmy Claret is now in that 15th spot with that Peugeot, so all of the work that Team Claret Sport did to get that engine changed is now being rewarded. He's ahead of Jack Young, who is having a real hard time. I don't think Brutal Fish have gone the right way in these hotter temperatures. Jack Young just ahead of team owner Martin Rieber. Davidovski 18th, then Poussier, Colombani, and Lucas Solicic is 9 seconds back off the pace at the moment. Benani all over the back of Joachim Gallas. Gallas defends to the inside. Can Benani go around the outside? It's a possibility around this corner because there's such a banking to it. He's crawling all over him, trying to find a way through. This is the hottest battle on circuit at the moment for 11th position. Gallas second in the rookie standings. And now we go back to the head of the field, and it's got really, really close. Maybe a little error somewhere from Franco Girolami in the last sector. Michael Ashkina all over the tail of him. Girolami hugs the pit wall all the way down this long start-finish straight here at the Nürburgring. Ashkina to the racing line, but this is going to compromise Girolami. He's going to be compromised massively. He almost locks a brake. And as Girolami just handed over the lead, he has the inside line for the next corner. He needs to get physical now, needs to elbow Michael Ashkina out the way. Don't give him any room at all. And he does that, he holds the inside line. And look how close it is. This is not over yet. And as the tyres start to scream no more, more opportunities will appear for Michael Ashkina. Nils Langeveld behind will be watching and waiting. 0.8 seconds across the line was the difference between himself and Girolami, but he's much closer now, because that first sector of the lap for Girolami and Ashkina was over a second slower. So Langeveld now ready to pick up the pieces. 5.3 seconds back is Teddy Claret from that third position, so Claret would need a miracle now to get himself on the podium. But ultimately, I have to say, they've really done a good job with that Peugeot this season. It's not been the flash in the pan that we saw in Paul Ricard. It has been a constantly performing car that we perhaps haven't seen from the Peugeot in the previous seasons. The balance of performance is working well for them. They've found a good setup. And I think if Jimmy didn't have the engine issues that he had, he could also be playing at the head of the field. This is where I think Franco made a little error last time. And Ashkina getting a better run through the corner. Again, Franco goes defensive here. That's awful for his momentum and straight line speed down the main straight. Compromises his line through the last corner. And Ashkina drove a normal conventional line, which will give him just a 1 or a 2 kilometre difference per hour all the way down this straight. Girolami goes defensive, but he needs to get his braking zone correct. Can't lock up, can't run deep. That was better this time. That alternate racing line from Mikael Ashkina made it work on lap 1 to go all around the outside. Maybe he could try the switchback as he got a bit more grip. Has he got a bit more grip? The gap is closing. There's a little bit of a kiss between the two. Ashkina gets out of the throttle, very gentlemanly. And again, Nils Langeveld goes, oh, okay, I'm getting closer. 2 more laps to go. Franco is really holding on now. Oh, look at the gap. Opening up for Mikael Ashkina because he had more momentum and he was later on the brakes. But just the lightest of touches. Now, he could have carried on ploughing, and I think if he was in the World Touring Car Cup, he would have done. We've seen Ashkina, I think it was here actually, when they raced at the Nordschleife, get into the back of someone and just go push, push, push. He was also being helped by somebody behind him, but in this championship, there is definitely a difference in attitude for the driving standards. And just a nice little touch there from Ashkina to say to Franco Girolami, if you keep making those mistakes, I will be coming past you. But Ashkina will be looking in his mirror now and going, knowing that if the two of them do make a big error, Nils Langeveld could end up ahead of both of them. That would be points away from both of them in the championship. Langeveld with the fastest lap of the race on lap 2 of the race. And such is that fall off of grip. Best lap, lap 1, a 2:08.3. You can see what kind of performance we're doing now. 2:10.1. Look how it's fallen off from Mikael Ashkina on the last 2 laps. Down into the 2:10s, and that might be the Cupra, but it could also be the Honda. Franco deciding to put Mikael Ashkina on the outside line this time. Interesting move. No need for contact on the main straight. Girolami hasn't got the momentum. He's lost the lead. He's lost the lead just by momentum alone. He now goes really deep on the brakes. Can he get it stopped? Oh, that's great. That's a great piece of defensive driving from Girolami. How did he manage to do that? Last of the late breakers, got all the way around the outside and claimed the lead of the race again. But now it's going to be 3. Now it's going to be 3 drivers. And Nils Langeveld was so disappointed with missing out on the front row of the grid. Look at this. Girolami just comes across him and obviously didn't realise just how much space there was left for Ashkina. As soon as there was contact, he gave him enough space. And it's now as you were, but it's invited Nils Langeveld into the party. Can we get the Dutchman 1 or 2 steps higher on the podium? It won't be happening around the middle of the lap. It's more likely to happen at the end of the lap, where it does seem as though the Honda is just struggling a little bit. Sylvain Poussier, by the way, in pit lane in his Honda Cupra. Good to see that car back out. It was properly damaged, heavily damaged after Spa. Didn't race in the second race because of the damage to the engine bay after contact with a brick wall. And Poussier and Colombani enjoying their racing. They're the kind of the gentleman drivers, older gentlemen of our series. I think we call them the diamond class. Viktor Davidovsky and Martin Reeb are also part of it, although in a different class of diamonds to the rest. But sadly, Poussier in the pits and retiring. Oh, now, it does look as though Franco Girolami just has a little bit more space this time, doesn't it? Locks his brake into the final turn, but does able to pick up the apex. That's the last lap board on the left-hand side, but we've also got a black and white flag for our front two. So that'll be just a warning about contact as we come on to the final lap. Girolami very, very late on the brakes again, but he was able to get it stopped last time, and he's able to get it stopped again. This time, more momentum from the two of them through that first corner, and Nils Langeveldt can only watch. But I feel as though Girolami's just a little bit wide there, just struggling a little bit with the front end. He goes defensive into the last part of the complex. Askren all the way around the outside, gives him the inside line. What a move from the Spaniard. That puts him into the lead of the race on this last lap. And I don't think there's many opportunities now for Franco Girolami to fight back. He made the wrong decision there to defend on the first part, which opened the door for Askren to come down the inside on the second part. And can you believe it, after leading the whole race, Girolami may not actually pick up the top step of the podium here. And instantly, Askren is released. He needed and wanted to do that pass cleanly for the championship, for him, and he's managed to do it. And there's been some great battling between the two of them over the last couple of laps. But now Askren is setting off into the distance. Will Langeveldt fancy second position? Is there an opportunity? With only a couple of corners left for the Dutchman, not sure. He'll have a good starting position also for race 2, Nils Langeveldt, a better one than Girolami for sure. But can you believe it, after all of the battling, after not a stellar qualifying performance from Michael Askren, he's going to come across the line and he's going to take his 4th victory of the year. It will be his 6th podium of the year, and it will mean in all of the races he's participated in, Askren has only missed out on 1 podium so far, the whole of the TCR season. The 4th victory for our championship leader. Michael Askren extends his championship advantage over his championship rival, Franco Girolami, in 2nd, and 3rd for Nils Langeveldt, who picks up his 2nd podium of the season. It's been great battling further back as we switch our attention to Joachim Galasch, who has got himself, I think, who stays ahead, sorry, of Felice Jalmini and keeps his 12th position. Jalmini 13th, Bart and Jimmy Claret round out the top 15. And in the end, after it all, Michael Askren really does rise to the top. The cream rises to the top, and the cream is Michael Askren, as he has been for so many of our TCR Europe races this season. I think we might have a rather frustrated Argentine on the podium. Franco Girolami could well have picked up his second victory of the season. But just a little error of judgment in the complex, put himself on the wrong part of the circuit and underestimated, I think, just how much grip Michael Askren had spare to him. So Askren taking the victory. By 1.4 seconds over Nils Langeveldt, with Teddy Claret in 4th and Tom Coronel in 5th in the end, ahead of Gavrilov and Callejas dropping to 7th. So lots and lots of work for Callejas to do and the Brutal Fish team to find out exactly where the Honda's pace disappeared to in the second half of the race. 1.4 the gap between Askren and Franco Girolami, with a 10-second gap to 4th position Teddy Claret. Such was the pace at the front of the field. Coronel, Gavrilov, Callejas, Borkovic Sami Taufluik in 9th position. Matto Homler with a good recovery drive after qualifying in 10th spot. Mehdi Banani, a bit of a lonely second half of the race in 11th. Then Joachim Galash, Felice Yalmini, Nicolas Bart, and the last point scorer, Jimmy Claret, half a minute down, but a huge thanks to the Claret Sport team for changing his engine. Scratching head time for Brutal Fish with Martin Rieber ahead of Jack Young by the end of the race. PSS Racing's Victor Davidovsky in 18th, and then the older Cupra of Gilles Colombani, Lucas Stolicic, and our one DNF, would you believe, Sylvain Poussier. And this is how he did it then. For many a lap, Franco Girolami had chosen the outside line into this particular corner, but on the last lap he chose to go inside, and it allowed Ashkenaut with more momentum around the outside to claim the apex of the right-hander, and then there was no chance for Franco to fight back. Ashkenaut had such great pace on that last half of a lap. The gap 1.4 by the end, but we saw so many good fights between the two of them. Clean fights as well. And I think we'll have one happy Spaniard in Michael Ashkenaut, but perhaps Isidro Caes will be less happy. 7th position after his pole position earlier on was not what he imagined. And I just get the feeling, overall, that the Hondas didn't have the pace in the second half of the race. Did they eat their tyres too much? Well, Ashkenaut pulls in to his #1 plated spot as the championship leader with an extended margin over Girolami. Nils Langeveld moving up himself into 3rd position in the standings ahead of what's going to be a very disappointed Mehdi Banani, now 4th in the standings, and Tom Coronel. Bien for Michael Ashkenaut. And those two, what respect between those two. There's hardly a piece of rubber on either of their cars. They really did race each other incredibly well. And ultimately, we knew that Michael Ashkenaut didn't need to make the pass. He would have wanted to, but he wanted to do it in the right way. And I think that's what makes him stand out from so many other of touring car drivers around the paddock these days. The older boys like to get their elbows out. The new generation are very, very happy to run clean, like they would be if they were in a single-seater. And Ashkenaut has done that so often in our championship this year. But can you believe that of all the races he's entered in TCR Europe, both last year and this year, he's only missed the podium once. Well, let's hear from him then. Michael Ashkenaut is down in the Parc Fermé with Mark James.
Michael, amazing performance, win #4 of the season. How do you feel?
Well, I feel really, really happy. Thank you very much. We extend the championship lead. This is the best news. Really happy. Tough race. Girolami, congrats to him. He did a really good race also. And really tough race, really tough, because since the beginning I tried to analyze him. I saw some corners that he was struggling a little bit more than me, so I was preparing and I tried 3 times. I couldn't. He did a really good moves and really happy in the end. He was very struggling with the tires. I used this opportunity. I went full attack and really happy for the team and keep pushing for the championship.
It was a great performance by both of you, but it was also very fair.
Yeah, very fair, that's true. We always try to respect each other. We had 2 small contacts, but we know each other that it was not on purpose, of course. I have to see what happened on the straight. I went to the left, and suddenly I received a contact, but I have to see on the video. But yeah, very clean moves from both of us, and really happy for the race.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, there was the lightest of contact, Michael, but it was okay. It really was so very, very light. And I don't think even the race stewards flinched at the possibility of investigating it. So here are the race highlights then. And not a good start from Isidro Caes on the pole position. Got a lot of wheel spin and defended heavily from Michael Ashkina going into the first corner with Franco Girolami leading. But look at the orange and black Seat here. He's fifth going into that corner, but he's around the outside. Oh, we got a big slide on actually. Just cut away from that. Big slide into turn 2, but it gave him the right direction to then be really straight out the corner. Further back, lots of sorting out to do with people kind of out of position. Mato Homler being one in his older style Hyundai, but that car did seem to pick up his heels and move up through the field as the race went on. But Nicolas Bart, some head scratching from him to do as well. And this was Jelmini on Banani, very optimistic on his braking zone and left it far too late. Now I think somewhere along here is a bit of contact for Jack Young, because eventually Jack Young ends up behind Martin Rieber, well out of the points, which is a big shame for the Northern Irishman. Ashkina trying as he might. Tried that same line that he did on lap 1, and then down the inside, didn't quite work. There wasn't a gap there. He really did back out of it. He could have continued there. Then there was a little bit of a kiss along the main straight between the two of them. Ashkina gets the lead, but look at this. Look how late. Oh, Franco Girolamo was incredibly late to get back into the lead of the race there. And then this was how the move was sealed, and Ashkina took the victory. 1.4 seconds ahead of Franco Girolami. But there was a really, really good fight between the two. And if you like motorsport, clean racing, then that was one for you. It wasn't necessarily the fender basher that we might expect from some touring car racing, but it was clean as you like. The Erebus Prestige cheese helmet will make its way onto the podium with Nils Langeveld in third position. Franco Girolami picks up his trophy for second. And there is Michael Ashkina, who picks up his winner's trophy. Don't forget the Pommery. Now, I wonder whether we will have any spraying of Pommery today, because of course all these overalls have to do another race tomorrow, and it's not particularly nice to have smelly champagne on your overalls for day 2. Isidro Caes picks up a trophy for best best rookie, and Martin Rieber as best diamond. Always nice to see the Erebus Prestige helmet, usually on Tom Coronel, but also Nils Langeveld with the same sponsor. I like that. It's one of the things that they do in motorbikes, bring their helmets onto the podium. Not something that we see too much in circuit racing, but it's a nice touch. Although in touring cars, of course, we don't ever see the helmets anyway. And the Pommery is being taken to the paddock, so that's good news. We might have some to drink this evening. Now, I think we will also have a second podium for TCR Benelux. And as it has been for most of the season, Nils Langeveld takes the TCR Benelux victory. So some more silverware, or it's metalware actually, to take back home. It's not far away, about 3.5 hours from here. And then Martin Rieber is our best diamond driver. And we do also have our best junior driver, and that is Joachim Galasch. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Joachim Galasch, it was Klim Gavlarov. So, well done to Klim. Bit of my absolute tip. Make sure you join us tomorrow at 1:45 local time, where we'll be going racing for race 2 here at the Nürburgring. It's a reverse grid race with Jack Young on the pole position. So thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.